My family name is Welsh, and while my accent is purely English, I do have a great respect and admiration, maybe even a nostalgia, for the stories that are passed down through the generations in the Welsh hills. My grandfather had a house up there, and used to tell me about the dragons that lived in the loft. Now, one story that really did stick with me was the story of Beddgelert. Beddgelert is a place in Wales, and it's named after the Prince Caernarvon, who was where he didn't have a son, and so he went out one day and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed for the good Lord to give him a son, and lo and behold, a son was delivered unto him. Now what then happened was he went out hunting, leaving his son with his most faithful companion, his dog Gelert. When he came back about 2 weeks later after the hunt, he found the cradle tipped over, blood all over the floor and the walls, and the cradle empty. His son had gone. His heir to the throne had disappeared. His dog, Gelert, his only true friend and companion, the only person he could really trust, if you can call a dog a person, and I think a lot of people would, was there, tired, exhausted, with blood around his chops. Crying, Prince Caernarvon struck him with his sword, chopped his head off. And it was only then that he heard a slight crying from behind one of the pieces of furniture in the room. When he looked, there was his son, completely intact and well. And there was an enormous wolf, dead, with Gelert's bite marks around his throat. Gelert had protected the son, and Prince Caernarvon had killed him in error, striking in the fit of passion at his truest friend. Even today, in a place called Beddgelert, Bed is the grave of Gelert, the dog. This story really struck me, and it's very emotional and makes me feel a range of emotions from that. And stories are something that really do get to us. And with photography, we often forget this. We forget that we're just using another medium to communicate. If I'm writing, I might be thinking about the grammar, the rhetoric, the alliteration, the onomatopoeia. But if I get too focused on this, in the same way that photographers can get too focused on the shutter speed and the aperture and HDR and the blurry backgrounds, they're going to miss the real important part, which is having a message and a story, an emotion, a feeling, a thought, an idea to communicate. Photography is a medium to communicate. Without meaning, it is dead.
It's funny how stories work, how they're passed down through the generations, how they can move us across centuries. And if you're worrying about the dead Gelert, well, you can relax because I had a look on Wikipedia, the archive of all stories. And it was really just a myth that was tied to the village by an enterprising landlord. So no dead Gelert, but stories are important. For example, with this photograph, it's not just about the two people playing, or even the man watching them. The people are symbols. The photograph becomes timeless, identifiable across cultures. The metaphors speak the story.